Hi, I'm Dr. Bernard K. Means of the Virtue Creation Laboratory at Virginia Commonwealth University, and I come to you from the Virtue Creation Laboratory. And one of the things that we do in the Virtue Creation Laboratory is we scan artifacts. Artifacts are things that are made or modified or used by people. And we use these artifacts to help us reconstruct the way people acted, the way they thought, and even their beliefs in the past. So today I'm going to ask and answer, hopefully, a question. Was Frederick Douglass an archaeologist? And some of you may be familiar with Frederick Douglass. You've probably seen his likeness. You may have heard about him in a history class. Frederick Douglass was one of the most, if not the most, photographed people of the 1800s. He was a gifted speaker and a gifted writer, very passionate about human rights, very passionate about dealing with the issues and legacy associated with the enslavement of people of African descent. He was also a passionate supporter of women's rights. Frederick Douglass himself was born in February 1818. The exact date is not known, but he did adopt February 14th as his birth date. At 20 years of age, Frederick Douglass escaped to freedom. And he did this with the help of his future wife, who was a free woman from Baltimore. And he escaped to Western New York, where he spent a number of years before he moved to Washington, D.C. And he moved to Washington, D.C. in 1872. This is where he died. And when he was in Washington, D.C., at a house that he called Cedar Hill, he would use things that he obtained during his travels to educate individuals. Right? So Frederick Douglass very famously said, once you learn to read, you will be forever free. Right? So literacy was a really critical aspect of Frederick Douglass's philosophy. Passionate, he wanted people to be able to read so they could free their bodies and free their spirits. Now, in Western New York, Frederick Douglass became very interested in stone tools made by American Indians and American Indian technology. And so what I have here is a replica of an arrow point that once belonged to Frederick Douglass. It was collected in Western New York. It was made by American Indians. And it is what we call chipped stone. Right? So this is a stone that's of a kind of a glass-like quality. And you can chip it into different shapes. It takes a lot of skill to do this. So American Indians would have chipped this into this triangular shape. And this shape would have been perfectly useful for arrow hunting. So this might be actually a true arrowhead. So Frederick Douglass had a number of stone artifacts that he collected from Western New York, and he brought them to his house in Washington, D.C., and when he was in Washington, D.C., he would use the things he had collected to educate. And that's really part of what we try to do as archaeologists. We try to tell stories from artifacts. So in that sense, I would say Frederick Douglass was an archaeologist. He used the material past to tell stories. Now, we don't have any evidence that Frederick Douglass actively sought out doing archaeological investigations. He had certainly plenty to do. But I would say, as somebody who used the past and used the material remains of the past, who used this arrowhead to educate, that we could say Frederick Douglass was a bit of an archaeologist. Now, this particular chipstone tool was 3D scanned by the Virtue Creation Laboratory in 2018 on the 200th anniversary of Frederick Douglass's birth. And I would really strongly recommend, if you're interested in Frederick Douglass and the artifacts he collected, the National Park Service that runs his Frederick Douglass National Historic Monument in Washington, D.C. has some excellent lessons that are suitable for teachers. And these artifacts are actually available for you to look at online, and you can sort of spin them around. And if you have a 3D printer, you can actually download and 3D print your own. So this is a way we can connect Frederick Douglass from the past to get his message